Good evening and welcome to this edition of the Speakers and Leaders Hour. I'm Dave Wilkins, your host, and this is the program that comes into your home on the first Tuesday of the month from 7 to 8 p.m. here from the Allen County Public Library, and we are live. Remember, this is a live show, and you can be an interactive part of it by giving us a call. That number, if it isn't on the screen, is 422-3902, and we'll try to take calls anytime you want to put them in. But why are we here and what are we doing? As we are every month, we're here to talk about the Toastmasters International Organization. And a little later on, we will talk about Robert's Rules of Order and the National Association of Parliamentarians. We'd like to give a little introduction about what Toastmasters is. It's a public speaking club. It's not a class, it's a club. And there are clubs all over the world now, some over 12,000 worldwide. And they have one stated purpose, is to make the people who are there better speakers and indeed better leaders. There used to always be just the speaking portion, but we have found out that once you become a very good speaker and you're standing up and you're speaking in front of a group, all of a sudden you become a leader. Because you're asked to either run for office or people look to you for advice to do things. And how do we do that? We do that in a setting where it is, as I said, a club. We have organizational skills that are demonstrated because we have a set program put in place and each person knows what their duties are before the evening starts. True enough, some evenings we have to kind of improvise and fill in. But by and large, the programs are indeed structured and people do know exactly what's going on. So we're going to do what we would call an abbreviated Toastmaster meeting this evening. We're going to have 3 different projects given out of our basic manual. That's the one that you get first when you join. There's 10 projects in there. Actually, there's 11. The entertaining speaker is the last one. But when you completed the first 10 speeches, we figured that you had become fairly competent as a communicator. Thus, we call you a competent communicator and recognize you with skills from the Toastmasters International Organization in California. And we'd like to have your boss recognized for what you have done for him because you've learned some speaking skills. So tonight we have 3 different levels of speakers. One that's fairly new and a couple that are actually pretty old. Well, not pretty old. They're just old. So without any further ado, we'll get into those speeches and then we will talk about the evaluation portion later on. The first presenter tonight is going to be a young lady that I have had the pleasure of knowing for well over 50 years now. She is indeed my wife, and we are both quite involved in the Toastmaster organization. She's chosen project number 5, Your Body Speaks. And she's going to talk about something that's most important in Toastmastering. We talk about Toastmasters being in charge of listening, thinking, and speaking. Listening being the very first skill. So with her title of Are You Listening? Please welcome my wife, Berniece Wilkins. Berniece, please.
Thank you, Dave. I think you just gave away the first half of my speech. No, that's okay. People hear Toastmasters, and of course, right away they think, public speaking. Well, I'm never going to give a speech. If you're lucky, maybe you never ever will. At some time or other, though, in the business world, you do end up finding yourself on your feet, facing a crowd, and having to give a speech. But that's only part of the Toastmaster program. What we are is a communication group. That means more than public speaking. Communication, it can be through technology, and Toastmasters is rolling out a brand new program in January that involves technology in the communication program. But also, it means communicating by word of mouth, not necessarily a speech, with your boss, your neighbor, your spouse. Toastmasters actually can help you get along better with your family. Can you believe that? What a miracle. But through the Toastmaster program, you do learn to be kinder to each other. You learn to be helpful to each other. And if you're lucky, that will spill over into your everyday life. It will help you to communicate better with everyone around you. So communication, that's what Toastmasters is all about. Talking, of course, is a big part of it. Learning to speak effectively, learning to say what you mean, which we often don't do. But there's another part that's just as important, and we don't address it very often at all. The other part of the equation is listening. Listening, really listening. Not just letting the sound come into your ears and go one inside and out the other. And that's what happens a lot of the time. But really and truly listening. How do you really and truly listen? Well, I can tell you a few ways that you don't listen. If you're talking with somebody and sitting there texting while you're talking to them, you're not listening to them. If you're on your cell phone, you have it glued to your ear. A phone call comes in, maybe during family dinner, and your dad gets mad. You can talk to your friends after dinner is over. It causes friction. There's so many ways that we don't listen. We're not giving the person that is talking to us our full attention. That's what listening is. Giving them your full attention. Really hearing what they say. Look at them when they're talking to you. Nod your head from time to time. Or maybe shake your head if you don't agree with them. Laugh if it's appropriate. But show that you really and truly, sincerely are listening to what they have to say. And then responding. But you know what happens? And I do this. I do this just as much as anybody else. Instead of really listening to the person, I'm busy formulating what I'm going to say back. We all do that. That's not really listening. But I don't know, I guess at the moment I think it's more important that I share my opinions than I listen to their opinions. There's just so many ways that we do things like that, that interfere with friendships, that interfere with our work ethics, that interfere with our home life. And so many times we hear what the person is saying to us, but you know what? Sometimes they're not saying what they mean. And if you truly are listening to them, sometimes by watching their body language, by using your eyes, you can determine what really is inside, what they really want to say and don't know how to say. Now, I know that sounds like I'm saying you should be a mind reader. Yes, that's exactly it. You have to try to be a mind reader because you do it sometimes too. You expect people to know what you mean, even though that is not at all what you are saying. So, listen with your eyes as well as with your ears. And there's another way to listen too that you probably never thought of. Listen with your heart. Sometimes people have turmoil going on in their life. If you watch their body language, if you listen to their words, sometimes you can figure out that they're upset about something, that maybe they're not saying what they really mean or coming totally clean with you because they have other things going on in their life that you don't even know anything about. Try to feel some empathy for what they're going through. Now, I know this all sounds like a lot to do. Just think if we all did this for each other, though. Sometimes it feels like, why bother? Who cares? But we need to care. We need to care about each other. We need to care about what a person is really trying to tell us. You know, if you do business with someone, say that you're a salesman. This person comes in and buys from you on a regular schedule. They have come in often enough that if you have been listening to them, really listening to them, you know what their needs are. Maybe they come in sometime and they're not sure what they want. You can help them usually. You can figure out what their needs are because you've dealt with them before. If you've really listened to them in the past, you probably can help them today figure out what it is that they need. As a salesman, you can use that tactic. Listening, just listening. Now here's something. You men will agree with this. In fact, we even talked about it in my house. Women often don't say what they mean, and they expect their men to know, to somehow know. This is true. And for one thing, maybe a woman has a problem, and she tells her spouse or her boyfriend or whoever, and she's all agitated, and all she really wants to do is vent. And she expects him to know that. Well, he's a fixer. A man's a fixer. Right away, he wants to rush in and fix things and make everything okay for her. That makes her mad. He thinks, what did I do? He wasn't listening to her. All she wanted was for him to listen, that's all. And I talked about being a mind reader. Maybe a couple are arguing back and forth, a husband and wife. I remember one time I got real mad at my husband, and I said, oh, just go away. Just leave me alone. And I turned my back on him. And you know what? He went away and left me alone. That's not what I wanted at all. I expected him to come up and put his arms around me and say, oh, honey, let's stop fighting. This isn't important. We'll talk about it later when tempers cool down. But he left. Learning to listen. We'd lived together enough years that I guess I thought he could read my mind. These are things that happen in everyday life. And no, we can't always be on top of everything. We can't always figure out what somebody's trying to tell us or what's upsetting them. But if we at least try, if we at least give them our full attention, if we listen with our ears, if we listen with our eyes, watch their body language, if we listen with our heart, knowing them as we do, knowing the things that might be going on in their lives, knowing what their responses might be. If we really and truly listen, we'll all get along so much better. I hope some of this maybe is sunk in to people in the radio, in the TV audience. I hope maybe it has helped you to be able to get along better with your spouse, your boss, your friends. Have you been listening? Are you listening? Are you really listening? Dave?
Oh, wow. Thank you very much, Berniece. And yes, I was listening, and I do remember some of those times in the past. Toastmasters, as an organization, will help you indeed learn to listen. We learn to emulate the people who are in the club, and we have found out that if someone is talking, you're not talking back and just ignoring what they're saying. You do get a respectful audience, and that's something you learn by being in the club. Well, the stated purpose of this program is to help you find out about the Toastmaster organization, and also to help you possibly want to come and join. Remember that call-in number is 422-3902, and maybe you heard this speech, maybe it touched you, maybe you'd like to ask a question about the club. If you would, just please call in, and we will certainly take your call on the air. Now, our next speaker has only been a member about a year, but he has taken to the Toastmaster organization, and he has just completed his CC manual that makes him a competent communicator. Now, tonight, he is here to talk about what Toastmasters can do for you, indeed, what I'm sure it's done for him. With his insights on the organization and what it can do for you, please welcome Ben Wilkins.
Thank you, Dave. And welcome to our television audience here at home. Before I begin with this, I did want to mention I was listening as well, and I thought you did a wonderful job with that. And you made some very good points that I don't think we all think of very often, and maybe we should think about more often. One of the things that you were trying to say that I remembered was a quote that I really love is, most of us listen to respond instead of listening to understand. Mm-hmm. And I think that Toastmasters not only can help you listen to understand better, but can just, as you had said, polish your listening skills, since a lot of us, I'm sure, need to do that. So, as Dave has said, I am a fairly new member. I've been here about a year. And I just completed my first basic manual, and I'm a competent communicator bronze, I think is the award that I got. Just communicator. I don't have the bronze yet? Oh, darn. Okay. Either way, I just completed the first manual. And that leads me right into what can Toastmasters do for you. Toastmasters can help you in a lot of different ways, and I'm going to break that down. I'm going to break it down and explain how this can help you. My boss just recently received the letter from Toastmasters International telling him about the Toastmasters organization and notifying him that I completed my first manual and that I've been with this group for almost a year now. And I was really shocked at his response to that letter. He told me that when he received it, he told me that he was really surprised that I stuck with this group as long as I have. And I was kind of taken aback by that at first. I didn't quite know what he meant. I realized that I wasn't really listening to what he was saying. I then later realized that what he meant by that was that he was surprised because he knew how much I enjoyed Toastmasters, and he knew that if I continued with it, that I would get better at it every day. He congratulated me on completing that first manual, and he told me that he's looking forward to having more letters from Toastmasters come to his store.
Probably not, but we'll see.
We'll see. So what is Toastmasters? These are going to be some questions that I've gotten from people regarding the Toastmasters organization. Now, being a member at 521 Anthony Wayne, I feel that I'm getting better at being able to talk about Toastmasters. So what is Toastmasters? First of all, as you both have said now, Toastmasters is a club. It's not a class. It's not required. It's not anything strict. It is a club, and I feel, are more of a family than a club. Like, we all get along very well. We all understand that all of us are trying to work on something that we're trying to better ourselves on, and we are all there to support each other to get better at these things. Toastmasters is designed to help you not only learn how to lead a group, but how to also speak effectively and effectively project your thoughts into words. So what can Toastmasters do for me is the number one question that I get, aside from what is it? So now you've told me what it is, what can it do for me? Toastmasters can help you in probably more ways than I can explain. Right out of the gate, the first thing I would say that Toastmasters can do for you is that it can help you communicate more effectively, whether it be to a large group or to a small group, such as what we have here today. A large group obviously being a business meeting at work, or your church group, or even talking to a whole bunch of your friends when you guys are trying to figure out what you're going to do for the summer. It really doesn't matter the size of the group. It can help you speak more effectively and help put your thoughts into words. On top of that, Toastmasters can help you learn how to better lead a group, especially if you've never led a group before. So in our organization, in our club, we all rotate different jobs within the club. We have our Toastmaster for the evening, we have our grammarian, we have a humorous thought, and then we have speakers, and we have a general evaluator. So the Toastmaster traditionally leads the group in our activities for the evening. They are the person that we look to lead us forward through the entire thing. They conduct the meeting in a way that we all understand, and in a way that helps us make sure that we're staying on track. In doing so, and in learning this role, because if you join a Toastmasters club, at some point you will become the Toastmaster for the evening. In learning this role, it will help you have better structure in your meetings and to lead your group more effectively. Now, if you've ever had a business meeting where everything is just chaos, there's no order to it at all, which I'm sure we'll talk about in parliamentary procedure, I feel Toastmasters helps with that as well. Because when you have a straight line order in what you need to do for the meeting, everything stays in that straight line. If you don't have any idea what you're doing, then how can you even possibly progress forward? So why should I join Toastmasters is the next question that I get from people when I'm talking to them about this organization. Most often I tell people, you should join Toastmasters if you ever speak to anybody in your life. On a daily basis, if you think about how many people you talk to on a daily basis, no matter if you're going to work that day, you're off work that day, unless you're staying in your house all day long, you're going to communicate with at least 5 people. Almost guaranteed. I think you should join Toastmasters if you have any desire to better, more effectively communicate what you're trying to say to people. And because we always will have an interaction, because we will always have a need to communicate, why not be better at it? Yes, it's good to be a better listener, obviously, but how can they listen if you don't know how to communicate? So what are the benefits of joining Toastmasters? There's a lot of benefits to joining Toastmasters, I tell them. The first being, you learn to better communicate. The second being, you learn what it's like to be part of an organization, part of a club, part of a group that is there to help you grow. On top of that, the benefits can also lead to, as I mentioned earlier, your Toastmasters will send a letter to your employer notifying them of your success within this organization. And I feel that that is a huge benefit because it shows your employer not only that you are trying to better yourself in a way that is always going to be necessary, but that you are taking the responsibility and volunteering to do this to try to make yourself better in a way that will help you with your job, that will help you with your relationships with your family, with your friends, with anybody. I think that that is a huge benefit. I was ecstatic when I finally heard that my employer received that letter from Toastmasters. The last question that I typically get is, can I observe this meeting as a guest before deciding to join? I had a conversation with my boss the other day during this whole thing with the letter, and I invited him to come to our meeting as a guest. And he said, I didn't know you could do that.
Yay.
I said, well, absolutely. I started coming to Toastmasters as a guest when I was 10 years old. And I'm 26 now, so, you know. So, granted, I joined a year ago, but I've been coming to Toastmasters meetings as a guest for quite some time. I invited my boss to come to our club in particular to observe as a guest to see what we do. Because he's asked me all these exact same questions. Well, what is it? Why did you join? What are the benefits? Like, what's the point? Was basically the gist of what he was saying. So when I invited him to come as a guest, he said he would think about it. So we'll see how that goes. I'm going to ask him again in a couple days. But yes, absolutely, you can come and observe our meetings as a guest as many times as you'd like. Can't promise that we're not going to ask you to join, because we probably will. But you are more than welcome to come as a guest, just to see what we do. There's no cost. The only thing that's going to cost you is a little bit of your time. Hour and a half of your time on a Thursday night to come and see us, ask some questions, get some more information, or you can sit in the back of the room and just watch us. You don't even have to say anything. If you don't want to speak, we're not going to make you speak. If you don't want to participate, you don't have to participate. Just observe. There's no force here. There's no expectations. There's nothing saying you have to do anything. We're going to put it down at your feet, and if you decide to pick it up and run with it, then good for you. If you don't, that's okay. You can come back to it at a later time if you want. we love having guests at our meetings. Our guests make our meetings more exciting, I think, because it adds new lifeblood to the club. It allows us to not only brag a little bit about what we do, but also to help inform somebody that doesn't know what we do, to hopefully convince them to join. In closing, I would just like to say that as a Toastmaster, I can honestly say that even if I left the club tomorrow, I'm still a better person now for having done it in the first place. I'll continue to go to Toastmasters. I've actually just renewed my membership recently. I fully intend to continue with Toastmasters until a time that I'm not able to, which I don't foresee happening. Toastmasters is a wonderful, wonderful organization, and I realize now I should have joined sooner. I really should have. Instead of waiting to be made an offer to come, I should have joined sooner. I absolutely adore Toastmasters and what they do and what they've done for me, and I know that they can help you just as much as they've helped me. Dave.
And the crowd goes wild.
Yay! What a great speech, Ben. And you hit on many, many points that make the meeting so interesting and so valuable to you. One thing you didn't mention was the table topics, and that's the part of the program where we ask those who aren't giving regularly long speeches to participate with a 1-minute answer on a question that is given to you impromptu. Now that sounds, ooh, scary, impromptu, but actually it's kind of a lot of fun. And you're given that minute to talk about whatever you want. That question can be a guideline as to how you answer it, or you can use the minute to talk about whatever you want. The point is, you have 1 minute to speak in public. And a lot of times, that'll be the first time, a lot of people, the only time they ever in their life stand up in front of a group and give an answer to the public. And another thing that I'd like to touch on that I think is important is your self-confidence. Most people would say, oh, I don't want to get up in front of a group, I can't stand there. If I stand up, my tongue gets tied and I don't say right, and I don't know, I could never do that. And a lot of people might wonder about doing a television show. Do you think we look pretty good doing this? Do we seem to know what we're doing? You could call and tell us. That number is 422-3902. And I'm going to give you a speech, and I entitled it, The Magic Periscope. Now, if you were a little kid, do you remember that little device you had? You could have even made one out of a tube for the paper towels in your kitchen and put 2 mirrors at different angles. Then you look in the hole, and then you can see around corners or over the top of things. So what is a periscope? A periscope, by definition, is a device that allows you to see what you cannot see without the device. It's kind of a complicated thing, but it means you're seeing something that you can't see without the gadget in your hand. Now, there's all kinds of magic periscopes. Ships have them, and submarines have them, and they do this, and they do this, and then they say, fire! But there's another kind of periscope, and that's the one that I'm looking into right now. I'm looking into a red eye right in front of me. And that red eye, through a whole bunch of electronics that I do not understand, takes whatever there's going on there, scrambles it into an image, shoves it down this tube all the way out to a tower somewhere. That tower goes up and sends that signal out over the air, and it goes into your cable system, and it comes into your home, and voila, here I am. It's magic. I don't know how it works, but I've been doing this now for a little over 20 years, and I understand how interesting and how intimidating a studio can be. In fact, I think that we are sometimes quite intimidating here. But what I want to talk about is, if I can do a TV show, well then by golly, so can you. All you have to do is have to have an idea. Perhaps you'd want to do a single standing alone TV show where you stand in front of this camera and go, hi Mom, hi Mom, and do that for a half hour. Or maybe you've got a hobby out there. Maybe you like to grow African violets, or you like to crochet, or you knit, or you have a weaving machine, or whatever. If you have some skill, or if you have some idea that is interesting to you, then it was probably interesting to someone else and could probably be put into a TV show. Now, if it were put into a TV show, I have to tell you, all this stuff that's around me, and you're going to see it here in just a moment, all this stuff around me is yours to use absolutely free. It doesn't cost anything. This is part of your tax dollar at work, the part that goes to the Allen County Public Library, puts together the studio, hires the help that's here. There's all kinds of professional people around here who will help you do whatever it is that you want to do. You have to have an idea. You have to be willing to come down here and sit down with a person named Norm, and you pitch him your idea. And then you talk to him about, well, maybe I'll need a small studio, or maybe I'll need this great big studio that I'm in right now. Or maybe you can do it with a remote camera and do it in your own living room or your own kitchen. Pitch the idea. Put it together. Norm will give you a booklet of people who you can call to have camera operators and audio technicians. And you can't have mine. I have the best in the world. I've got Jim Mount right here, who's doing an excellent job on camera and has done it for years. Our technical director is Otto Boucher. He's a paid employee here, and he is the best producer I think we can have. And last but certainly not least is the man that I know so well, and that is Dennis Osborne, and he's our audio technician tonight. But anyway, if you've never seen the inside of this TV studio, I'm going to have our cameraman slowly do a complete 360 of everything that you see, starting with where I'm at here at the studio, at the lectern. So just, if you can, Jim, just do a complete 360 nice and slow and just take in everything you can. So here we go, and I'll talk about what we're seeing here. Well, that's the end of the table that there's nobody at. See, you might not have known that if you hadn't done this. And we have this white curtain behind us. Then you're going to see some of the black curtain that's there. There you're going to see a ladder that they use when they have to adjust the lights above us. That TV screen is called My Monitor, and I can see what's going on there. And then as you turn a little further, you're going to see some more TV cameras. And that bright spot coming in is the booth. And that is the booth where the audio technician and the director are, and they're in there, and they're waving at us right now. So anyway, that was a banner that was done when they had the anniversary. I think it was 20 or 25 years. It's been hanging there. No, maybe 10 years. That was back when we were Channel 10. Anyway, there's the doors, the access and entrance to the studio. And Jim, you're doing a great job there going in the circle. I hope you're not getting too dizzy.
Props.
It's just a blank wall.
Props.
And then behind over here, do you see a lot of the props? A lot of the shows they do use these various props, the nice chairs, the flowers and everything. There's a whole set back there for a show called Uncle Ducky. And Uncle Ducky is a comedy show that's really fun to watch, and he used to be a Toastmaster too. Jim, thank you. You go around in circles really well. Give him a hand for doing that. Good job. We have a phone call. My goodness gracious. Caller, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, what is your question?
Yeah, I was wondering about Jody, Isaac, and Elijah.
Jody, Isaac, and Eliza. Are they Toastmasters? Oh, I don't know. Is he gone? He's gone? Okay. All right. I think we got cut off there, but maybe you can call back and explain what that is. Okay. Anyway, Jim, thank you for going around the circle. You did a great job, and that gives an idea of what the studio looks like. And as I was saying, if you want to do a show, this is yours to use. You don't have to have this table configuration. You can have a whole bunch of easy chairs. You can have bar stools. You can do whatever you want. You need an idea, and you need to be willing to get in front of a camera. Toastmasters is what put me in front of this camera, and also a man named Bob Lyman. If you knew Bob Lyman, he takes you places you never knew you could possibly want to go, and will set you down and put you there. And this was about, oh my gosh, it's got to be almost 30 years now, 28 years anyway, that Bob Lyman came down here and did a TV show. Then he and I had a show. But he's the one that got me in front of the camera and said, you can do this. He said, it's just like talking to people at home, only there's this big round eye that's about as big as a big old fish eye, and you look into that eye and you talk to it like it's your living room, and you're just on the other side of that line. Toastmasters gave me the confidence to stand here and do this, and also to talk. And I'm talking fairly extemporaneously. I'm just actually running my mouth. But I'm doing it because I've done it a few times and I know what I'm doing, so I'm able to do that. But Toastmasters, in their basic manual, allows you 10 projects to hone your skills from the first nervous icebreaker all the way up to the inspire your audience speech. Now, those 10 speeches, as I say, are part of the basic manual. And they have something in there that is something that we call evaluation. Now, this is how you learn. The first speaker we had tonight was, let's see, Berniece Wilkins, and her evaluator is myself. All right.
Uh-oh.
Now, in each book, each manual, there is a project, and hers was on Your Body Speaks. She was to use gestures. And if you notice tonight, her gestures were very good. She talked about using her ears. She talked about hearing with your heart, and so on. And her title was, Are You Listening? Her project certainly met the goals of the one that she was working on. And all of the basic things I have actually marked quite well because you are an accomplished speaker. You've done this a lot of years. Things that you'd use, people might notice, and I would be happy to comment on them. You have such a great vocabulary. You use the correct words. You have great grammar. Your presentation had a certain opening, body, and close. It was a well-structured presentation. It was informative. It would have been informative to Toastmasters. It would have been informative to the audience out there at home tonight. It was quite educational, and one of the things I really liked about it was you were really, really sincere. You just felt like this was coming from your heart, and you just did a wonderful job. I liked your emphasis. I liked the fact that you were knowledgeable. And I'm not sure what you could have done differently, but I want to thank you for being here tonight and giving such a wonderful presentation. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, let me see. Our second speaker was Ben, and Ben's evaluator will be Berniece. And Berniece, you want to come up here and give that evaluation, please? By the way, we applaud all the time to keep excitement up, but when it's a small group, it's hard to do enough applauding, but we'll give it our shot. So
The crowd goes wild. Yeah. Okay. I don't know if I've evaluated you before, Ben.
It's been a while.
Have I? I
It's been a
didn't
long
remember.
while. I think you evaluated my icebreaker.
I've heard a lot of your speeches. Well, you should join Toastmasters. Well, the title is right out there. Doesn't leave anybody anything to wonder about. I thought that your opening was one that would grab the audience, that would make them be interested, want to listen to the speech. That's always very important. You were very sincere. I believed you. I don't know if you're lying to me or not about being so excited about Toastmaster, but I believed it. It excited me to hear that. I'm glad. You definitely were a credible source for this information because you've been a member a year. So you know what you're talking about by now. You did, to some extent, appeal to the audience's self-interest by showing how much it had done for you and different facets of your life. And I think they probably could see that that could apply to them too. So that should have interested them. That should have captured their interest. I have a question mark. Did the speaker properly use emotion to persuade the audience to support your views? You're not a real emotional speaker. I tend to really get carried away. I'm that way normally. I think you normally, even just in regular conversation, aren't real emotional.
True.
And I put a question mark because I don't know if high emotion is necessary really all the time. Your body language, I thought perhaps you could have used a few more gestures. You had a lot of gestures down here on the lectern where probably the viewing audience just saw your hands going up and down. Gestures should be meaningful. Air out the armpits a little bit and get your arms up there. I think I hope the audience is persuaded I think they should be. I think everything you said was important and was forceful, and it should have just grabbed people because it's so important in today's workplace, especially to be a good presenter, to be have good communication skills. And I put down, were you persuaded to accept your views? Well, of course I was persuaded. I'm a Toastmaster, for heaven's sakes, you know. I was persuaded. On improvement, the only thing I said was more effective use of gestures, and perhaps, and I don't think I did this either, smile. I never saw you smile, and I'm not sure that I did either, but they tell you to appear friendly to your audience. To draw your audience in and make them comfortable, you need to smile. And I'm not sure that I did that. You know, what did I like about the speech? You know, I was going to say that you needed more vocal variety, but instead I'm putting in here that that actually is something I liked about the speech, a more conversational style of speaking, like you're sitting right across the table from somebody, not jumping up and down all excited, you know, more natural delivery, and I think I actually liked that. So I changed my view on that, and I thought your thought processes, your logic is rather interesting. I've known you a long time, and there's so many things I'm learning about you through Toastmasters. I never really understood exactly how your thought processes work, and it's very interesting and very logical, too. Dave?
Here's your evaluation, Michael.
Thank you.
Good observations, Bernice. That really is the heart and soul of the Toastmaster program, is the evaluation. And evaluation and learn by doing at your own rate, because we're not forcing you to do anything here. You do it as your own rate.
I did smile, you just didn't do this.
Now, the last presenter was myself, and that was going to be evaluated by Ben. Ben, please.
Thank you, Dave. That was a really good speech. I liked how well it flowed, but you talked about different things. It was real good. So with the evaluation of said speeches, this, as Dave has said, this is what helps us grow. This is the heart and soul of Toastmasters, the whole purpose. So I thought, first off, that you did very well with your speech, as always. I mean, and I'm not just saying that because you're my grandpa. Like you really did do a very, very good job. I felt that it applied to the audience very well because you were mainly talking about the television show, talking to a television audience. It's very, very, very form-fitting. It asked if your topic was well researched, and I couldn't help but be a little sarcastic here and say, of course it was well researched. You've had about 20 years of research on this particular topic. Okay. And on Toastmasters, more than that. So I would say both your topics were very, very well researched. So how well did the speaker how well did the speaker support his or her main points? I said very well. You gave very good examples, especially showing the audience the entire studio. And was the support material appropriate for the point made? And I said yes. See above. I made a little arrow for you. It's the exact same purpose there. That in talking to a television audience, and you show them the entire television studio to explain to them, not only what it is that's going on here and how it works, but to actually show them is something entirely different. You could explain it all day long, but to actually show it gives a lot more information. I think that your purpose was very clear in supporting Toastmasters and promoting public speaking, not only in talking about Toastmasters itself, but also talking to a public live audience. Mm-hmm. Both of those flowed very well together, I think. It also asks if you varied your types of support material. And I said yes, because you've talked about TV shows and Toastmasters and extemporaneously speaking, where you didn't really have notes, but all of your notes are here, which I've noticed you do that a lot. I don't think I've ever actually seen you use notes. So, again, I would commend you on that as well, because that's that's great to be able to do. Your organization was really well, especially for having talked about multiple different points throughout the speech, that you didn't just jump all over the place. That you talked about this one particular section, and then this one particular section, and then this one, and then you had to close, instead of bouncing back and forth. So your organization is always very, very good, and I've noticed that as well in listening to you speak. I think what I liked the most about it was like I said, the showing the audience the studio, because it gives a really good example of what all we do here and what happens here, and all of the hard work that goes in with the camera operator and the director and the audio technician. That it's not just as simple as you're seeing me go. Like there's a lot more to it than that, and I thought that was really cool. So overall, I think you did a very, very good job. I didn't really see much that you could have improved upon. I mean, trying to nitpick even couldn't think of anything. So very, very good job.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Ben. I'll take my evaluation. Well, over the past 50 minutes, you've heard three different speeches from the basic manual. We've had some evaluations. Our speeches have run a little over time, and I guess that's okay. And we were going to get to the parliamentary portion, and rather than do that, I have a couple people who gave me questions last time. We didn't get to answer them. And one lady wrote in and asked me, she said, I'm my club secretary, and I've got these minutes. What do I do with them, and do I have to keep them? And I think that Berniece could answer that better than anybody else. You are a club secretary, and you're a club secretary for the parliamentary club. Tell us about minutes and
I've
about...
been a secretary a lot of times. Do I have to come up there?
No, you can do it right there.
Oh, okay. Yes, secretary's minutes need to be kept forever. You don't ever get rid of secretary's minutes. They are a legal document that would stand up in a court of law. Not that you would ever need them, I hope, but they would. So you should always, generally they pass them down from secretary to secretary, but it's nice if you can find a long-term member that would be willing to hold all of those minutes in one place in their house, because they can get lost when they're passed along.
That happens a lot of times.
It does.
Yeah.
They can get lost, and they really shouldn't.
Okay. Now, I know that you have minutes going for our Toastmaster Club. You've had them going back quite a ways, don't you?
Oh, my golly.
Tell us about them.
About
The minutes for Anthony Wayne, Toastmaster.
the minutes for Anthony Wayne. Anthony Wayne was chartered, I think, in 1947.
Yeah.
Well, I have minutes back to 1954. Can you believe that? 1954. And it's kind of interesting. Things are done so differently now. Like the programs were made on those old machines that had purple ink that would get all over you. They were awful. They really were. Of course, the program itself was basically the same, and it was all men. It was all men, and I think in the 1960s, women were finally allowed to join. But I can track this through all of the minutes, and it's really interesting. And when we have anniversary parties, things like that, I can drag some of those minutes out and see what we were doing like 20 years ago, 40 years ago. Minutes can be used for a lot more than just minutes. They're the club history, actually. And they're piled up in my closet, you wouldn't believe.
Okay, but there was another question that was called in. The fellow said, my meeting's running long, and we just seem to talk about the same things over and over. How do you control a meeting, and how do you keep things on track? And do you have a suggestion for that?
You want me to answer everything?
Well, that's what going to be about the last one, I think.
Well, one way that you can keep people from speaking too long, especially on reports, whoever makes out the program, they should put on that program that speakers are allowed maybe 1 or 2 minutes, whatever the club decides, and that's it. And when they've spoken their time, the chairperson should tell them that their time is up. Just like I think I don't know if it's the Senate or where, they'll say, well, Mr. Smith, your time is up, and that's it. Your time is up. You have to yield the floor to someone else. You can put in the margins, how much time people have. Oh, like for motions, how long to discuss motions. Is that the type of thing you were
Yeah, that's
meaning?
right. It's also on the agenda, and the agenda is the roadmap for the meeting that you're having, and that agenda, once it has been approved by the group, cannot be changed unless there's a 2/3 vote in the affirmative. It's
Right.
not cast in stone, but it is approved by a majority and changed by a 2/3 in the affirmative. So those are two things that are very important. The Parliamentary Club here in Fort Wayne meets on the third Monday of the month here in the library, and that in fact will be next Monday evening. We'll be in the Globe Room from 6:30 to 8 p.m. And what do? Well, we practice Robert's Rules. We have lectures on different aspects of parliamentary procedure. And if people want to have us help them with their program, or if they have some problems, they can come and discuss it with us. Oftentimes we talk about bylaws, and we can help them with their bylaws. And that part, yes, Berniece.
Sometimes we have fun just having somebody stand up. We give different people turns at leading the meeting, and maybe somebody will throw out a motion that's really kind of funny, like, we're going to paint this room red. Well, I don't think the library would probably like that, but they'll argue it back and forth, according to parliamentary procedure, of course, until they come to a determination. It's just fun to do things.
I remember one discussion about a group that had in their bylaws that if you wanted to present a motion, you had to stand on your head. And people want to know, is that true? Is that really, really true? Well, if it's in the bylaws, that's what you have to do, and you'd have to change your bylaws otherwise.
Oh, my gosh.
But also we do things that just help meetings run more efficiently and smoothly. And when people get together, that's what a meeting is for, is to decide something. So if you're going to decide whatever it is, you need to have an orderly way of doing it. And again, as I said, we meet the third Monday of the month. That's this Monday coming up here in November, and that will be the monthly meeting. Then our next meeting will be in January, because we have in December we have a Christmas party, so that won't be here in the library. And then there is the Toastmaster Club, and that's the Anthony Wayne Toastmasters, and we meet at the Ivy Tech. We meet on Thursday nights in room 1626. That's the campus that's there on Coliseum, bordered on one side by Anthony and on the other side by Crescent. 6:30 to 8 p.m., and if you can make it, we would love to have you come and visit. Love to have you come and join, but come and visit first, see what we do. We are not the only club in Fort Wayne. There are clubs that meet on Tuesday night out at the Lutheran Hospital. That's the Smokey Montgomery 159 Club. That's the oldest club in Fort Wayne. They meet on second and fourth Tuesdays from, I believe, 6:30 to 8 p.m. Then there's the Bob Lyman Club, and that meets at the Pizza Hut at Northcrest, and they meet on Monday night, the second and fourth Monday nights of the month. Just like our club, they welcome long-lost friends. And then there are other clubs. All you have to do is go to Toastmasters.org and click on Indiana and say, find a club near you. If there isn't a club close by, you can also have us start a club for you. We'd be happy to do that for you, too.
How about Decatur?
Decatur, Indiana, is looking for people to start a club, and if you want to get with Patricia Roopslaw, we have a phone call.
Oh, ma'am, could you shut off your shut down your television, please?
Oh, we have a caller. Great.
Turn down my television. Okay.
Awesome. What is your question, dear?
They're going.
Hello, Berniece. How are you?
Who is this, please?
This is Jennifer S.
Oh, yes.
How are you guys? I just wanted
Who is it?
that I was a Toastmaster. How much you really encouraged me in my journey in public speaking.
It's Genevieve Betts. Genevieve. Remember?
Oh,
yeah.
God.
Yeah. Hey, it's good to hear from you. We're still meeting at Ivy Tech, and we'd love to have you come out and visit us. How's your radio show going?
It's going wonderfully. I just turned my TV on, and I saw you guys, and I said I had to say something to you because I've spoken often about Toastmasters
Okay.
and the impression that you've made upon me.
Okay.
I wish I would have called earlier so that I could have spoken on air, but I wanted to say hello to you. Hi,
okay.
Dave. Hi, Berniece, and anyone else that's there.
That's our grandson, Ben, and he's a Toastmaster too now.
Okay, I didn't get to see him. Came home and just turned the TV off.
Okay.
All right.
Do you want to give a commercial for Toastmasters?
When
What right now?
you mean,
Yeah. What should people do? Should they come to our meetings?
are you asking me?
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. I'm asking you.
What would you like for me to do
I'd like to have you give the commercial for Toastmasters.
on my radio show?
No, right now.
Okay, what should I? Yes, what would you like me to say?
What do you think of Toastmasters?
I think Toastmasters is an awesome opportunity to develop your confidence, to engage in a community of supportive people, and it was just a positive experience for me.
Awesome. Thank you, Genevieve, and come see us again. Yeah, give her a hand. And
Thank you.
And thanks for calling in. And we hope to see you down the line, maybe here in the studio. Okay, well, that about wraps it up for our meeting this evening. Thank you all for being a part of it. Jim Mount, thank you for doing camera. Let's see, Dennis Osborne taking care of the audio. And, of course, Otto Boucher as our technical director. Thank you. Bernice, thank you for being here. And thank you for lots and lots of things. Ben, thank you for being here. You're doing a great job as co-host. And till next month, may your meetings be fair and efficient. And God bless and good night.